This is where like foul weather gear for the crew was kept. Where we kept our big, like our sea bags or stuff, because the lockers were real small. They were like 10 by 10 inches or maybe a foot deep. Everything else we kept in there in their sea bags.
Well, it must have been difficult to sleep here because of the noise of the engines.
Well, you got used to it. Mine, like I said, all of our bunks were against that wall, and on the other side of the wall were the engines. So if we were out and running, that's all you heard was a banging, because those engines are not quiet. So you learn to sleep through anything. It's strange. It's a weird feeling. It's like I never thought I'd see this place again anyway. And it's sad to see it the way it is, because it's not the way you remember it. That's why time passes by, and that's what happens. This is where our phones were. This is the stuff that I was talking about, was on all the rails in the ship. Any stairway had these, which were put on by the bosun's mate. It had this, and it had different designs like that one you could see as wrapped. And then it just has a solid bead on it. And it gave you some grip when you came down. You kept your hands from slipping when you slid down, because most of us being young and healthy in those days, our feet didn't hit the steps all that much. It was more like you just grabbed your hands and slid down. And this gave you grip. Now if you go in the engine room, when you look at the steps there, they don't have anything like this. They would put a coat of paint on the steps, the metal steps. They poured sand on it and then painted over it to give you grip. And we had shoes that were called boondockers, and that's what we wore for work shoes. Where that term came from, I have no idea. Where'd you sleep up forward? Yeah. I slept up there when I first came up. I was telling them, when you came out of there on the, what's that, the port side? We had the, did you have the washing machine in there?
No.
We didn't get rid of that by then. That was our laundry up there. We had the laundry up there. I had one Ringer, Maytag Ringer sewing machine, washing machine.
I took my laundry into Gloucester City.
Yeah. Well, we did too, but I mean, if you were out, that was the place to go. Or when you first came on.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been in this
You never come down to get in the storage room?
I've never been in here. Now in the chief's quarters,
Upstairs, yeah.
one time they had everybody in the ship go in there. When I get in there, I realize what it is. They had a corpsman sitting there in a chair. You had to drop the drawers.
Yeah.
And he'd check you for crabs.
Yes. Where were you guys?
Apparently I didn't have any, but they smeared some cream on you.
Yeah.
And
No, I never
heard
that.
who was the cause of that, but I believe this was part of the degaussing.
Part of the what?
The degaussing unit right here.
Part of it's over here too.
Yeah. I remember sitting here one day playing the harmonica, and a gruff old chief that was on board, he opened that door.
Bosun sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had a bosun sheet. It was on here the whole time I was on.
And he told me, quit playing that harmonica or he was going to throw it overboard. So I quit playing.
Well, he didn't like. We didn't go past that door. That was officer's quarters. We didn't go past that door. They come in to give us a hard time, but we didn't go in there.
Yeah. I don't ever remember seeing the emergency generator run.
Oh, I did.
There was a young man from New Hampshire that they didn't like, and they found some paper trash back into the exhaust, and they said that he put it in there to try to disable the engine. I don't know if you heard me tell, but and I told a young man to go check them, and he went out and opened it wide open, and this generator stopped on a dime. A slug of condensate got in the cylinder, and it just bam, it stopped instantly. I have a photo of that. This side and the panel board at home. I couldn't find it.
fun to take apart, I'll guarantee you that. Especially, did you ever take the bearings off the bottoms?
We always worked on the bearings.
Yeah.
We'd use the Prussian blue to check them,
And the scraper, flat
scrape them,
scrapers.
put new oil grooves in them. Now, when we were getting ready to go underway, of course, we always got the engine spinning over real slow, as
Yeah.
slow as they would go. Just barely cracked the steam valve open.
Keep it moving.
This was some kind of a bypass, if I remember right. Probably a brass pipe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all this, anything that's missing is glass.
Yeah.
That was just hot air blowing on you.
Yeah, it came right in here, didn't it?
Yeah.
I remember being on throttles and looking down and seeing the
Oh yeah, the door was always open.
Yeah.
Them guys were always hanging in there, just to get air. Because there was no air down there at all. You could lose 20 pounds in one day in this room.
They would go up and
Oh yeah, they
go
had to
out
go
the
out and get
stairs
air.
while you were underway, because the boilers were basically on their own at that point. And I guess the main steam gauge might have been over here. I can't remember.
Well, you got over there on the right. That's right. And that box in there, that was just a toolbox used to keep big wrenches and stuff.
This must have been feed water
For the boiler.
for a boiler.
Yeah.
One on port and starboard. This, I remember this well. This is oil separator.
Yeah, the grease extractor.
Grease extractor. I had to clean those loofah sponges
Oh yeah.
in Curtis Bay
Yeah.
on the dry dock.
They had a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, scrub them with Okite, and
Yeah.
all the rinse water went right into the overboard.
I think this was a backup pump.
No, I think the fuel pumps were on the other side of this wall,
Side of the wall there. They were on that side over there.
and the fuel heaters
Yeah,
were over
over
there
there.
also.
And you know why this had a step here? This here? This is the step. You know why that's there? So when those things were moving and everything was moving and banging, step up here and grab this. And oil cups in there. You had to oil them by hand. And then you had to wait for things to go up and down so you could do that.
Yeah, you did it actually fast. You like this,
The long oil cans with a long.
pumping with the oil can at the whole time while it's moving.
And you had to make sure you got them off, because if you missed one, the bearings wouldn't last.
Yeah, now there's the wick oiler right there that
Yeah.
dropped down in that tube. You fed it in there and then just capillary traction pulled the oil
Bearings.
right down on the bearings. That was 4065 was the oil.
And these big guides back here, you had to oil them.
I think those were from the drip oilers up above,
above.
but you had to feel them,
You gotta make sure they
go
have.
in time with the engine and touch them and make sure they weren't getting hot. It was pretty smooth and quiet. It was clacking. I've seen
It's
this.
reciprocal, so.
There are some sites that have those engines running. You can hear them, the rhythm of them. These oil pans underneath each cylinder, crank throw, we drain those every night.
So you have to remember, this oil didn't stay in this thing. When you put it in, it just ran through.
Yeah, and
It
it's-
ran into the pans.
The whole floor was just oil covered, everything.
Oil. Everything was covered in oil.
And the night watch pumped everything overboard right into the Delaware River. At 2 in the morning, that's when you pumped these
Pump the
pads
bilges.
and the bilges.
I had to stand up here, and you can see that in there, there's like the mesh, the wire mesh, and just fill that with oil and just drip through. I'm surprised they didn't grab the copper pipe.
Yep.
There's our air conditioning system, more hot air. Did you ever paint that in there? You ever had to do that?
No, I never,
When we were in the yards, we had to do that.
I remember getting back in there and scrubbing, but I never had to paint back in there.
Steering, what do you call it? The steering wheel, I guess.
Yeah,
That was a pain in the ass.
I think we had trouble with it one time.
Yeah, we had trouble more than once with that. whatever that adjustment we had to do to it on the little rods, we can never get them in the packing, just never stayed in that thing.
Yeah, we were constantly repacking valves, shafts. You know, I never remember seeing the main condenser open.
No, nah.
I don't remember working on the vacuum pump.
But this, remember, I was talking about the wrap right against that wall there.
Oh, okay.
My wrap
Yeah, I
right
never
there.
knew
Yeah.
that those were back in there.
Yeah.
All right, maybe I just don't remember.
Remember, yeah, well. Yeah, my bunk was right against that wall, so every time that motor moved, they turn that rudder. Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, that was loud if I remember.
Oh yeah,
right.
that was loud, because that always banged, leaked. I had 2 COs, Hibbs and Homer Purdy, I'll never forget that. Of course, everything had asbestos on it down here in them days.
Yeah. All the gaskets.
Oh, everything. All the steam pipes had covered with asbestos, what we call the lagging.
Right. And then
It had
anything
those
that,
long pieces of asbestos that had different sizes, and then we had to mix up this. Remember the big paper drums of the powdered asbestos? You mix that up. Make
like a glue.
Yeah, you made like a paste, and then you covered, and then you wrapped it in
it's
tape.
like a greenish gray when
Yeah.
you got done.
Yeah, and then you had to paint it with lead paint. Oh, yeah. Oilers are missing off. So, you know what? They took the oilers off. Because you can feel the threads are still there. They didn't take them out. There used to be glass, little glass, what we call them oilers, and you fill them up with oil and they automatically
Drip
drip.
oilers, yeah.
Drip oilers, yeah.
Yeah, maybe this
Did you
big
get a
one
look at
for
that?
jacking the shaft over.
That was so we could turn the shaft over so we could work on the engines. So that if you needed to move something into a different position to work on it, that's what you would have to do.
Now, I think they called these reversing eccentrics.
Yeah, reversing gear.
They were real smooth. I mean, you
Yeah.
could go forward or reverse.
That's how you
Just a
changed the way
fluid,
your
smooth motion.
motor was running.
You could go from full forward to full reverse.
That's like our automatic transmission of the pad.
They have an engine just like this in at the basement of the Smithsonian, the Museum of American History. They came off another Coast Guard ship. They have half of an engine room built there as a mock.
I must have missed that one. I was down there a couple years ago for
If you,
Police Memorial Week. I don't remember seeing that. But
Yeah,
there's
if you-
another engine, set of engines like this in Philadelphia on the USS Olympia. I don't know what kind of shape they were in. They were in bad shape when they brought them 20 years ago.
since they have some of these handles,
Adjustments.
they can have these recast and replace these that are missing. And also some stops on the top there
Tops
that are
up
missing.
there, yeah.
So if they
Those
just,
were used to adjust the travel.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's casting place in town that would be willing to donate their time and expense towards the preservation of the lilac
Let's hope so.
and help them out. There's a lot of brass that needs to be recast, remade. Maybe some
It's a shame they took
sheet
all
metal
that.
shops can help them out.
One of the most fun jobs was repainting this floor. Gosh, that was soaked in oil.
Yeah.
So you had to take the plates, lift them up, and they ain't light, and carry them outside and work on them outside because you couldn't work on them down
If I remember right, the pilot valves.
here. Yeah.
I think these were feed water pumps for
Yeah.
the port boiler.
Yeah.
This was always here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, workbench. This was the power's going on this. Wait a minute.
Yeah, now that's seawater right there.
That's a seawater valve, yeah.
And
And this is where the big piece was sitting on here.
Right.
This is the 1896 pump, I think. But the dating and stuff was on the impeller,
Right.
right? Am I right on that one?
Sounds right.
Yeah, this was the oldest piece of equipment on the ship. All right, how's this get back here? When we're talking about the oilers on top of them engines over there, This is what it is. You fill this with oil, and when you hit that, it would automatically drip in here. Now this one you can
Right.
adjust the drips.
And then-
Some of the other ones, the smaller ones, they just had a steady drip.
Then you can turn these off once you get in port.
Port. So,
I think that might be on and then off. I can't remember. You can see the rolls of packing in the back. We always constantly repacking all these shafts. And swabbing oil.
that's what all these pumps have in packing material, we call it. It's graphite. What was the material? I forget what the name of the material was.
Oh yeah, they make that. And you also came around on watch and you swabbed these shafts with swabbing oil.
Yeah.
Real heavy gray, thick oil. Kept the packing to last longer, kept it lubed.
I'm looking for something like this pump. I'm pretty sure, I don't know what this is. It had that asbestos on it. And right now, all this paint that's coming, it's all lead.
Yeah.
All lead paint.
It's going to take a lot of work.
There you go. Here's the pipe wrenches young guys that weigh 100 pounds had to play with. Or those jacking rats. I don't know how we even picked them up.
Yeah.
How about 60 pounds heavier than I was then?
Well, the chiefs, they told you what needed to be done, how to do it.
Yeah. I'm surprised that a wheeler sitting. I looked at that and I didn't even notice it at first. Mike Bundick was the guy that was on with me. He came on right before I left. He had just come back from Vietnam. He was on a machinery repair barge over there.
And I can see the guy that was a boiler tender.
Wayne came on about the same time he went to boiler tender school somewhere too. And he came on about the same time, so we were like firemen at the same time. Third class, second class. And he was from down in Eastern Shore of Maryland. I have to get my list out and see who was what. But I do have a list.
Well, that's one
Other
thing.
guys' names, I mean, some of them I know where they were from and some of them I don't. I don't know how many of them are still with us.
Yeah, I tried to contact one of my buddies from Pittsfield, Mass, and couldn't get a hold of him to come down.
I used to hang out when I was a farmer. I hung out with a seaman from Okeechobee, Florida. So I tried to find him, but there's like 10 guys down there with the same name, and they're all about the same age. So.
Yeah, I would like to see the fire boiler room. And they were going to have us do a march. So they,
Jesus Christ!
when this guy showed up, we were going to do a little drill for him.
Oh, please!
We were banging into each other. After about 5 minutes, the guy said, "Stop, stop."
Marching was not a Coast Guard
He
thing.
said,
I can
"That's
tell
it."
you that.
He said, "No, we're not going to do it." The one photo where you see this, we were in a small boat leaving the Lilac down in Delaware. At the end of that day, we see the Lilac off in the distance. We're heading to it. They had coiled the bow rope up on the bow of the small boat. We hit a rough patch in the river, and the rope goes over, blink, caught the propeller, tore the engine out of the motor mounts.
We still had that ramp open, but we were afraid to put the ramp down because we were afraid if we had to put it down, it would never go back. And we were down like Pea Patch Island or something, and they dropped off. Well, of course, you had to have some engineer with you. It was like 20 degrees out, so they dropped us off. This was at night. Go work on a light. So we had to go in that locker that was in the back there, and they had foul weather gear. So we put on the foul weather gear. We got in the ramp boat. We took batteries and lights and all that stuff. We had a second-class bosun made with us, and we got over there. And the good thing about the ramp boat was you could beach it because it was so flat. If you got stuck, you could just push it back out. So we beached it, and them guys went to work on the light, and they were like frozen to death. So luckily, we all smoked at that point. We built a bonfire on God knows what. And so we stood there to keep warm, right? So we're all standing with our backs to the fire. You know what happened to our foul weather gear? It's all on fire. Yeah, we come back here and the captain was peeved because all our expensive foul weather gear had burn holes in it because we were froze.
So this is where you change the speed?
Yes.
Direction and speed.
Speed. Reverse. We change the direction of the engine.
This was your steam valve. You can see the shaft moving here. Goes to the valve right there. This is the high pressure cylinder, intermediate pressure cylinder, and low pressure cylinder. They all produce the same amount of energy due to Boyle's law. as the steam expanded, your cylinders got bigger, and it still produced the same amount
I
of
think they
power.
were like 500 horsepower each.
Yes.
We had 1,000 horsepower in here. And our top speed was like 10 or 11 knots, something like that.
Okay, these are drains. I forgot what those were, the steam drains. When you first were going you had all your drains
Moisture.
open.
Yeah, get the moisture
Drain the
out.
condensate out, so you just had steam in there.
That are up on the bridge, they're not from this ship. They came off a Coast Guard cutter called the Buttercup, who was in a scrapyard in Baltimore, or in Curtis Bay. And it seemed ours didn't work, and as you can tell, everything on here, even then, since we had an 1896 pump, it was very hard to get parts for. So we had a recon party in the middle of the night one night, and we went and got the annunciators and many other parts off the Buttercup. So the annunciators that are on here now, or were on here when I left, were from the Buttercup. We'd strip them down, put a coat of paint on it. If you feel it's rough, and they'd put sand on it, let that dry, and then put another coat of paint on so you had traction. Because they were really, really slick from the oil.
Yeah, if I
Like my
remember right.
work boots down here were so oily, they were just like 2 oil rags on your feet. The whole shoe would be like that.
Yeah, everything was slick with oil. Even now, you can still feel a little
Oil in it.
oil there. It seemed like we used another type of oil for something. It might have been 2190,
I don't remember the numbers. I remember.
but it was 4065 is what we lubed the engines. Well, you can see the handles that are missing, the brass handles that operate the throttle and the eccentrics to go from forward to reverse. Those could be recast. I'm sure there's some kind of dimensions on the drawings of those. Those are missing. I believe this handle here is for the skylights. I'll have to look in there in the engine room and see. I don't remember what this cord was for. Apparently that ran up something temporary. That's down in the forward berthing area. Here's another shot of the forward berthing area. You can see the lockers. It looks like there must have been 9 lockers on each side. And there's the 3 bunks high. And no doubt all of these steam lines are covered in asbestos. Well, there it is, this photo of when they dropped us off in the small boat and we're heading to work on aids to navigation. And on the return trip, the valve rope fell overboard, locked up the engine and tore it out of its motor mounts. So we were dead in the water.